was campaigning in Iowa yesterday. His supporting super PAC announced that in total $150 million has been raised. Former President Trump spoke at the Turning Point Action Committee conference last night. His campaign reported $35 million raised, but it's unclear how much of that in the second quarter went to his PAC. President Biden's campaign pulled in $72 million in quarter two. That is a lot, but still less than where former President Trump and Obama were at the same point in their campaigns. Governor Chris Christie raised just $1.65 million since announcing his candidacy. He said this today.
We essentially were raising money for 3 weeks. So we feel good about what we've done. There's also a super PAC that has been supporting our effort, which raised another $6 million on top of that. So I think we had a pretty good 3 weeks.
Now, Christie predictably also slammed former President Trump, calling him a coward. Today, in an exclusive interview on Sunday Morning Futures, the former president indicated that he will not debate his competitors next month. Are you participating in the upcoming debate?
Well, it's quite an easy question normally. Ronald Reagan didn't do it, and a lot of other people didn't do it. When you have a big lead, you don't do it.
All right, well, the 6 campaigns so far say that they have met the polling and fundraising requirement to participate in the debate. Eric.
All right, can't wait for that debate and see who's on the stage. Alex, thank you. Right now.
Eric, new reaction today after NATO leaders refused to give Ukraine a timetable for an invite to join the alliance. The U.S. and its allies say it will happen, just not while the country is still at war with Russia. Lucas Tomlinson, live at the White House with more. So, Lucas, how is this stance going over in D.C.?
Let's recall just about 4 days ago, Arthel, Ukraine's president was angry about no timetable for his country to be admitted to NATO. And even President Biden told CNN Ukraine was not ready for membership. But now, days later, after this conference, the president's national security advisor says there is a pathway for Ukraine to join NATO.
Ukraine's future is in NATO, period, full stop. No qualifications, no negotiations with anyone. It is going to happen. Having Ukraine come into NATO while the war is going on would mean that NATO was at war with Russia.
So that's the caveat, Arthel. Now, Vladimir Putin knows this, of course, that as long as he has Russian soldiers in Ukraine, it will never be able to join NATO. That's why experts say this war could drag on for years. Back in 2008, we heard a similar message emerging from a previous NATO summit in Bucharest. That was about Georgia and Ukraine joining NATO. What happened? Putin invaded Georgia months later and Ukraine in 2014. Right now, U.S. officials call this war right now a stalemate. The front lines have not changed much since last November. The long-anticipated counteroffensive has stalled due to a lack of air support against well-dug-in Russian troops along the 600-mile front lines stretching from eastern to southern Ukraine, and Russian forces still occupy nearly 20% of the country. Now, due to a shortage of American regular 155 high-explosive artillery rounds, the White House has now approved cluster rounds for Ukraine, Arthel. They say as soon as those regular rounds can be ramped up and produced here in the U.S., they will stop sending cluster rounds to Ukraine. Now, back here at the White House, the Secret Service says it's closed its investigation into who brought cocaine here to the White House.
I can't really speak to the investigation that was done by the Secret Service. They did the best they could to track down how it got there and who it might have belonged to.
The Secret Service is a troubled agency. It's long had challenges. It probably needs new leadership. I don't think they interviewed the president's son, who's a known cocaine addict.
And the Arkansas senator also said he'd like to see everyone here, all the suspects, drug tested, and he says that this cocaine caper is another Biden cover-up. Arthel?
Lucas Tomlinson, live at the White House. Thank you, Lucas. Eric.
Arthel, about those cluster bombs, Vladimir Putin out with a warning. That after the president agreed to send them to Ukraine. Can they help turn the tide of this war? Congressional Ukraine Caucus co-chair Brian Fitzpatrick, there he is, and what it will take to finally send the Russians home.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, don't take that.
Ensure Max Protein, 30 grams of protein, 1 gram of sugar. Enter the 10,000 outlet. Stay with us here on AccuWeather. We continue to cover the intense weather throughout the Northeast, including flash flooding and severe weather threats. A closer look at that forecast is coming up in just a few minutes.
This program is brought to you by Skechers Glide Step Flex.
Why just walk when you can glide? In Skechers ultra comfortable Glide Step Flex footwear, every step feels like you're floating. Plus, they have Skechers premium cushioning for extra comfort. Skechers Glide Step Flex.
Morgan never really thought about their credit scores until they got Credit Karma and realized they could use their scores to open doors and help them pre-qualify for.
Make more with yours.
My daughter, Natalie, she is the youngest of my 5 children, and she has neuroblastoma. She really didn't have any symptoms until one day she just stopped using her arm.
By the time we realized that she was sick, it had grown into about a softball-sized tumor and spread through her bone marrow, her lymph nodes. So it's a very fast, aggressive cancer.
So I came to St. Jude and learned how much hope there was and learned how much they could do for Natalie here.
You can join the battle to save lives by supporting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Families never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment, travel, housing, or food, so they can focus on helping their child live.
Money wasn't even an issue. We just did the best treatment for Natalie.
It's the donors who have already taken on that, burden on their backs and said, all right, we've got this, we're going to pay this bill and make sure this family is taken care of. I can say for sure that money is being put to incredible use, and our family is forever grateful for donations big and small because it's completely changed our lives.